Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Boys are on vacation. They'll be back throughout the week next week. I think Paul's back on Monday. I'll be with him. Mitch, I believe, on Tuesday. So
Where'd Paul go?
Days.
Tahiti. You think the Bahamas? Cancun?
He's
Where would Paul Howard go?
He's an outdoorsman of sorts. So I'd assume it's something like that.
He loves the beach. He loves to get out in the sun.
Loves people.
Loves dogs. Probably took his dog down to the beach in San Diego.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
By the way, do we have some dog videos today?
I did not send it in.
Okay.
Let's see. At Paulie Does Vegas, that's where it's at. Paul never sent us anything, so he doesn't really.
Okay.
The way I communicate with Paul is sporadic. Sometimes it's emails with the subject line Paul Howard, even though I know who it's from. Sometimes he'll text me like he has my number because he does, and then other times he'll DM me. Sometimes it'll be all three in one day, so I don't know.
That sounds familiar.
Who knows how to get him?
He's got my phone number as well, and he'll text you some bizarre things every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then last week he sent me a DM, hey, I left my bag in the studio. Can you tell Justin to grab it?
Okay.
Let's just text me that.
Right.
Instead of DMing. Paul is a unique character.
The inner workings of Paul's mind are an enigma. I think that is.
I hope he left town on vacation. I hope he left town.
I do too, and I think sometimes when I see Paul and the mysterious nature in which he works, it reminds me of Aaron Rodgers sometimes, right? You can never really understand the man. There's different things going on. An
eccentric
up there.
Superstar.
Sure, of course. Right? I think that's exactly what those two things are. And we finally heard from the eccentric superstar, Aaron Rodgers. It's been a while since he got released. And I wanted to tie this actually into the NFL draft, but we finally heard from Aaron Rodgers. He was on his best friend, Pat McAfee's show.
Of course.
Of course he was. Gave us the deets on quite a few things, but one of the things that is obviously pretty fascinating about all of this is the fact that Rodgers allegedly has met with the Steelers. The Steelers want Rodgers. They need a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a team, and nobody else wants him because all the other seats are taken. There's one left. Why hasn't this happened? Some have alleged that Rodgers has demands. We don't know. Aaron, what's going on?
About me, that's just not true. I've been straight up with these teams from the start about where I was at, starting with the money thing. I told every single one of the teams I talked to, it ain't about the money. I'll play for 10 M's. I don't care. I never once said I need a multi-year deal, $30, $40 million. It's absolute. I said I'd play for 10.
You'd play for 10. 10 M's, as he said.
M&Ms?
So what's going on? Yes, exactly.
Actually, $10 million?
Yep.
Big good deal for the Steelers. Do it now.
Sure. I mean,
1 year,
considering Russ can make up.
You can sign up for 2 years for $20 million.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
Draft a quarterback at number 21. Let that quarterback sit behind Aaron Rodgers and learn. And I think that's actually a pretty good plan. If he will seriously play for $10 million, I would sign him to a 2-year, $20 million deal.
Yep.
Why? I think that's actually a pretty good plan for Pittsburgh.
Okay, so then what's the deal? If he's willing to play for 10,
so he must not be telling us the truth.
What? No. Stop.
I don't know,
he's
man.
always truthful.
Maybe
this
not.
man's a victim, Matt.
Maybe he's not going to play for 10.
This man's a victim. Now, I did think Lindsay Rhodes had a good tweet on this. I wanted to read this, see what you thought. So she said, I know it's been reported that the Steelers made Rodgers an offer, but I wonder if it's possible we're framing this whole Pittsburgh's waiting on Aaron Rodgers dynamic incorrectly. Is it possible that their offer to him reflected less investment than is being suggested, and that they always planned on drafting a quarterback, and that maybe he's waiting to see what happens? She also notes that I just can't wrap my head around a team that just let Fields go, putting up their eggs in the basket of a quarterback that was let go by his former team in favor of bringing in Fields. So in other words, maybe he's saying he's willing to play for 10 M's, which he believes is cheap. Maybe the Steelers didn't offer 10 M's.
Well, I'm sure she heard from a source in the Steelers organization that said, hey, you might want to put this out this way, right? I don't think she came up with that on her own.
I mean, maybe. It's not really pro-Steelers. It's just, hey, is it possible that their offer to him reflected less investment than is being suggested, and they always planned on drafting a quarterback? Which, by the way,
what's
if that's
less investment?
I think that means that they would sign him to a 1-year deal on a cheap whatever it is, maybe less than 10 M's, and also draft a quarterback in the first round.
10's pretty cheap.
It is.
So you think the Steelers offered less than 10?
I mean, if he's
if that's true, that's why it hadn't gotten done. Because
who are they competing against?
Vikings, apparently.
Are they?
Apparently, the Vikings still have interest in Aaron Rodgers. I thought they were completely out, and then last week the word comes out, well, the Vikings might still be interested in Rodgers.
Okay, $10 million. If the price is this cheap.
I mean, 10's so cheap for a player like Rodgers. Why would the Steelers just not do it now?
Right. So something's not connecting. Maybe somebody's lying. Who knows? But
if you draft Shedeur Sanders at number 21,
yes,
you're not going to start him in week 1.
Which ties into my next question, because currently the draft odds, New Orleans Saints are plus 150, Steelers are 3-1. These are 2 draft Shedeur Sanders. So which team will draft Shedeur Sanders? Saints plus 150, Steelers 3-1, Giants plus 330, Browns plus 330, Raiders plus 850, and then you get to the Jets at 16-1.
I bet Steelers plus 550.
So it's down to 3-1.
That was 2 days ago.
Can I read you a headline?
Actually, it was plus 650 a day before that. I was 1 day late to get to it.
So this is all conflicting information. I'll read you a headline. You ready for this? Shedeur Sanders meeting with Pittsburgh didn't go well, says insider. Won't be a Steeler, quote.
Okay.
So they hate Shedeur Sanders.
No chance they're going to draft him.
No shot they're going to draft him. So there's no shot they're going to draft Shedeur. And now they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, but they're not waiting for Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe they like Jackson Dart.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Could be.
If he slips that far.
Could it be Jalen Milroe?
That's going to be.
Well, the word came out last week that Mike Tomlin likes Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. No, but according to this, the meeting didn't go well.
Who is that source?
The source was NFL insider Aaron Wilson, who works for Texans Today by Chat Sports.
You never know. There's so much misinformation out there about the draft that you can never jump to conclusions. Even if it's a very credible reporter, you can't jump to conclusions because they will be fed misinformation by the teams on purpose to mislead the public or other teams.
Because I wanted to bring this up because the quarterbacks in the first round is always pretty fascinating. Mitch did not believe me, by the way.
About what's that?
About my trend that the quarterbacks have gone under in the first round in 6 of the 8 years in which we have had NFL draft betting.
Yeah, I think it's 6 of the 8. 2017.
Yes, and last year.
It went over, and last year it went over. Now, the Kenny Pickett year is not really fair.
Why isn't that fair? It was 3.5 and only 1 went.
3.5?
It was 3.5, yes.
No.
Yes. I promise you, I have gone back and kept track of
that's
this.
One I bet under.
Yes.
Because I didn't think there was going to be 1 to go in the first round that year.
Yep.
It was really 3.5.
It was 3.5.
That's how.
It was Kenny Pickett. What's it called? Malik Willis was that year, I believe. Was that the Matt Corral year as well, if I'm remembering this all correctly?
That was 3.5.
That was 3.5?
I mean, if you told me 2.5, I might believe it now.
What are you talking about? Extra year of control. Trade back into the first round.
Think about that class of quarterbacks.
Of course.
Actually, you know what? There was a lot of misinformation thrown out there before that draft that Malik Willis might go in the top 10.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Of course.
What did he go, 3rd round?
Yep. He didn't even go in the 2nd. I'm very curious.
I forgot that number was 3.5.
Yep.
I did play under that year. I didn't like those quarterbacks at all. Kenny Pickett, I did not even think should have been a first rounder.
So I bring this up because again, I think the Steelers are obviously the wild card, and what happens here with Aaron Rodgers, I think, does affect what a team like the Steelers would do.
Oh, no doubt about it.
You would put them in that category of, hey, potential, for somebody like me, potential landmine at the back end of the first round if you're betting these quarterbacks under. Because that is either a quarterback-needy team at 21, or that is a team that just signed I'll say, future Hall of Fame quarterback that's going to try to go for it now and is probably drafting something else.
All right, so if the Steelers signed Rodgers, they could say, hey, we'll just take our quarterback in the 2nd round.
Sure. Or just not at all, and we'll wait till next year.
Could be Jalen Milroe.
Yep.
Could be Quinn Ewers. Somebody like that. There's no longer that urgency to take a quarterback at number 21.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart could be their guy, too. I've heard some buzz about that.
I've heard that as well. So I'm glad you brought up the Kenny Pickett draft, because I also asked this, and I'll ask this to you. What are the chances that this year is that year yet again? What if this is the Kenny Pickett draft all over again? What if Cam Ward's the only guy that goes in the first, and the rest of these guys just all slip out of the first round?
I'm not going to be stunned if it happens. Now, I think it was Todd McShay who said a couple days ago, Tim Murray, I think, brought the clip onto the show that night, Todd McShay said Jackson Dart is not getting out of the first round.
Okay.
But
Tom McShay also said that Bo Nix was not a first-round pick.
I know. I'm just saying, I'm not going to be shocked if both quarterbacks, talking about Dart and Sanders, slip to the second round. Now, if they do, they're going to be very early second-round picks, but it wouldn't stun me if they both slipped out.
Sure, and to that point, too, Jackson Dart could actually go in the first round, and Shedeur could slip out.
True, right.
Because that does not seem to be a lock by any stretch.
I would not bet the quarterback prop over because I think there's a decent chance one of those quarterbacks is going to slip. And there are other people out there who think Jalen Milroe is going to be a first-round pick now, too.
Jalen Milroe, how about this? Daniel Jeremiah says, look out for? No. Tyler Shuck.
First rounder?
Look out for him.
On,
a lot of teams like him.
Too many injuries, too old.
We do it
not
all the
happening.
time, dude.
Not
We do it all the time.
That would be crazy. He's a second or third round.
Oh, look, I love the tall freak, Tanner McKee. Remember we were talking about him. Look out, back into the first round. You can trade in, get the extra year of control. Do it all the time. So Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe. Did you see, speaking of McShay, the great headline from him, NFL teams genuinely confused why Jalen Milroe accepted invite to draft.
So am I. Really?
Yes.
I couldn't believe that either. By the way, update, Phillies 5, Giants 3, bottom of the 8th, so that is over the total.
Yep.
At most places, 7.5. It also closed 8 at a couple other places, but 6 runs were scored in the first inning of that game.
Yep. All right, coming up at 15 minutes, we're going to have Nick Alberga, host and director of Leafs Morning Take. We'll get a look at the first round of the NHL playoffs. That is all set. We are wrapped up in the regular season. Looking forward to hearing from him coming up at 15 here on Follow the Money.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
I do want to correct a couple of things. I said Daniel Jeremiah. It was Tom Pelissero who wrote the article that said look out for Tyler Shuck among the quarterbacks in the first round.
Both those guys are very good sources. So, okay.
I don't want to misrepresent that report at all. The other thing that I wanted to add here, because we were talking about Aaron Rodgers and what's going on. The name escapes me already. Who was the who's a reporter that confronted Ian Rappaport at the Starbucks at the draft?
Jordan Schultz.
Jordan Schultz, thank you very much. I was just watching a clip from him. Said that it doesn't feel like the Vikings offer is real. The Steelers connection makes too much sense for Rodgers. But I did also want to bring this up.
I don't think the Vikings make sense either,
No.
but why does this keep dragging out?
I mean, it's
Rodgers
probably,
and the Vikings.
Could it be Rodgers people just throwing it out there? Or very quietly, are the Vikings seeing J.J. McCarthy behind the scenes going,
That's what I'm wondering. They think J.J.'s not ready.
Right. He was injured. That's the fair part. Maybe they just don't think he's healthy.
Right.
The other thing that was buried in this Rodgers story, because obviously he made his first public appearance, he talked to his best friend, Pat McAfee. He also talked about...
I thought his best friend was Devontae Adams.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. Could be Devontae Adams or Pat McAfee or RFK Jr., one of the two. He talked about his last meeting with the New York Jets. Did you see some of the comments that he made on this?
Go ahead and read the comments.
So I'm paraphrasing all of it. He flew across country to meet with the Jets. He's thinking like, all right, cool, we're coming out here, we're going to meet with the Jets, meet with the new coach. He meets with Glenn. Glenn comes in, says hi, then leaves, then comes back with general manager Darren Moogie, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. And all of a sudden, they start talking about his future. He said he got fired within like the first 10 minutes of the meeting. So he flew across country to meet him in person. They told him they were moving on a quarterback. He said the quote that it was he comes in, we sit down in the office, GM asks me, so do you want to play football? And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, we're going in a different direction at quarterback. That is allegedly how the meeting went.
I've heard an account of that meeting very similar to that, so I think Rodgers might be telling the truth. Here's the thing. I'd be pretty irritated by this if I were Rodgers and I flew to New York.
Just call me.
And yeah, why don't you just call me and say, hey, we're going to move in a different direction. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm a 40-year-old quarterback, off an injury, didn't have a great year. I understand you're going to move in a different direction.
Exactly
right?
what Aaron Rodgers said.
Why the hell would you have to fly across country and have a 10-minute meeting to get the same news?
Matt, when you're a man, you meet face to face. Right?
Not if you have to waste 2 days doing it.
You got to sit and look in there and look him in the eye.
I assume Rodgers was in California, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He flew to New York.
He called it a cross-country flight, so I would assume that was a
10-minute meeting. So he said, we're going to move in a different direction.
Yeah. So the other interesting part
that is kind of like what you expect from the Jets, too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The other part, so Aaron Glenn, the new, of course, head coach, former Lions defensive coordinator. So he also took a shot at him in the interview. He said Glenn, Aaron Rodgers he explained the decision to release him. Rodgers quoted Glenn as saying, quote, "I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you," meaning that Rodgers would be a distraction. Rodgers said, "What does that even mean? Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying?" He said, and then I said, "You don't know me." Glenn responded, "You don't know me." So Rodgers responded with, "Exactly, which is why I flew across the country to have a face-to-face meeting with you and talk about my experience." So he kind of let it all out. We'll see there's probably a grain of truth to what he's saying. You know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. Trust him as far as you can throw him when it comes to some of this, but either way, it did not end well with the Jets.
No, I think we're all tired of Rodgers' drama queen act.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sounds like Aaron Glenn didn't handle that situation the best.
Got to get him out of there. Can't have him in the back.
If you're going to move on, just call him and say, "Hey, we're going a different direction with a younger quarterback."
Justin Fields.
Well, there aren't a lot of great options out there.
No.
I can actually understand why the Jets went with Fields. If they think they can make something. He wasn't that bad for the Steelers last year. At times, he was actually pretty good. I don't think his long-term prognosis is all that positive, but you never know if you get him in the right system with the right offensive coordinator. I think you could do a lot worse a quarterback than Justin Fields. In fact, I think the Steelers are probably a little bit worse when they switched to Russell Wilson from Justin Fields last season.
You can make the argument, I think.
Initially, the Steelers played a little bit better with Wilson, but don't you think that at the end of the year, he really burned out?
Oh, yeah.
I thought Wilson burned out and the offense was bad. And they probably would have been better off with Justin Fields at the end of the year.
So Steelers remain a very big question as to what's going to happen there. And if they don't, then they're in line to draft one of these quarterbacks.
I think they should draft a quarterback anyway. But it doesn't have to be a first-rounder if you get Rodgers, right? But when's that decision going to be made?
I would assume after the draft.
Seems like it should be made now.
Well, I would assume also does whatever Pittsburgh does at number one tells you what is going to happen, right? To an extent?
I would say this. Even if the Steelers draft Shedeur at number 21, they could still sign Rodgers and he could be their starter.
Well, would he be willing?
Where else is he going to go?
Correct. I agree. But, ego works in weird ways, man.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll just retire. Maybe he feels like he needs to be courted more. Maybe he feels like you cannot have my replacement on this roster.
I've said it before. If he's not playing in the NFL next season, he can't do the spots on the McAfee show because nobody cares what he's saying. If you're not an active player, nobody cares what you have to say.
He will. He'll probably be working like the Department of Health or something after this. Got such a good read on everything.
I think right at this point, you'd still have to bet Rodgers to Steelers and Steelers draft a quarterback, but it doesn't have to be in the first round. It could be a second rounder.
Mm. All right, with that,
I would like to get some good information on who the Steelers like at quarterback. Do they like Shedeur Sanders? Do they like Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart?
Sure.
Who is it?
So with
Tyler
this,
Shuck.
Tyler Shuck. I'm willing to bet that's not going to happen.
I don't think that's the case.
But I don't know. Maybe I've been wrong before. So Youmans mock draft is up on the website if you want to check it out. VSiN.com. First round is up. How many draft bets do you have in pocket right now?
7.
So we've talked about a couple of them. What is the one you like the best?
That's a tough one. I think Jackson Dart to be the second quarterback off the board at plus 200.
Okay.
I do think he's going to be the second quarterback drafted. I also like...
We're really this far gone for Shedeur, huh?
So I also like Matthew Golden, wide receiver from Texas, to be the second wide receiver, or first wide receiver picked, because I also got that at plus 200. Mitch Moss and I were talking about that. Tim Murray was in on that conversation early in the week. Golden looks like a pretty good bet to go to the Cowboys at number 12. I think he's now pretty solidly the first wide receiver off. He's going to go before Tep McMillan from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Stone and I talked about this too. This props up at DraftKings. Matthew Golden under 17.5 draft position. So bet Golden to be the first wide receiver selected and also under 17.5. I think the Cowboys take him at number 12. That's on my mock draft too.
Where do you think Michael Williams ends up going?
I've got him going to the Falcons.
Because of what they have,
number 15, right?
There is a draft matchup up. Michael Williams minus 235 to go before Matthew Golden at plus 180.
I like Golden.
At that price, right?
At that price, I would take Golden.
Given the potential that there is there. There's quite a few draft matchups, and they're going to have a couple more.
Golden's got great speed, and you know how the Cowboys are. They love those flashy first-round picks. We got to put somebody opposite CeeDee Lamb and stretch the field. I think that pick makes so much sense for the Cowboys. That fits their profile. Matthew Golden to the Cowboys at number 12 is one of the – once you get past the top 5, that's one of the picks I'm most confident in when you look at a mock draft.
And these mocks, there's a lot of like – I don't want to call it groupthink, but there is a lot of consensus selections near the top of these mock drafts.
Well, and a couple trades could throw the whole thing out of whack.
Right. I mean, the big one is, as we talked about yesterday, apparently there's people in Jacksonville that actually really want Ashton Genty.
I don't get that.
I don't get it either.
I don't get it.
But I think that's your first pick that throws everything on its head,
Are
right?
they throwing that out there to try to get the Broncos to trade up to number 5?
Or are they doing the what was it?
We know the Raiders like him at 6, so we're going to throw that out there that we like him at 5?
No, the Mitch Trubisky thing, right? Where the 49ers, like, they tricked the Chicago Bears essentially into trading up, and then there's the great quote from Lynch in the Peter King piece. It can't be Trubisky, can it?
Trubisky.
and it actually was Trubisky.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing that.
I think the Jaguars are doing that at 5 to try to get somebody to trade up to 5, right?
Yeah. Could be.
Trying to create this market, this urgency for Ashton Genty, and it makes sense for the Jaguars to do that, right?
It does.
It's like poker.
VSiN.com. Check it out now. You go to VSiN.com/subscribe and get in on the summer special. VSiN Pro subs are available through August 1st for less than $60. You get in on the daily best bets email it's sent to you every single day. The betting splits access, that is both Circa and DraftKings, updated up to the minute. You can find out where the money's moving for every single game. Expert analysis, some great write-ups on the website right now, VSiN.com, for the NBA postseason. NHL content is starting to gather and populate as well as we are getting closer to the NHL playoffs too, and plenty of betting systems analysis as well. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe and get started today. Coming up next, Nick Alberga. Join us, get his thoughts on the NHL postseason, and get some bets for him for some of these series and more when we come back.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Very excited for our next guest to join us. The Stanley Cup Playoffs, of course, on the verge of puck drop, and to get all the analysis we need and some best bets for it, Nick Alberga is with us. You can follow him up on X at the Golden Muzzy, and of course, get the work over at Leafs Morning Take. Nick, thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it. So let's start with what some would say maybe is the biggest series on paper. Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche. Avs are a slight favorite, $1.40. What do we make of the price? Is it cheap? Do the Stars have a shot here at that number? What are we looking at?
The Mikko Rantanen revenge series is the way it's being billed right now, guys. And there's a reason why the price has changed and not in favor of Dallas. Even last night, it was minus 130 for Colorado, now priced at minus 140. And that's because Jason Robertson, one of the top players in the Stars, goes down last night. We'll find out more tomorrow on sort of where he's at. Miro Heiskanen, the top defenseman for Dallas, out in the series as well. And I think that's why I'm heavily in favor of the Colorado Avalanche winning this series. I talked about the revenge factor. There are ways to bet Dallas, maybe Mikko Rantanen against his former team to score the most goals in the series. I think that's certainly an avenue. I would look at the crease as well. I think that's got to be a big story. But I think that is fairly priced considering some of the big-time injuries here for the Dallas Stars.
How many games, if you like that? Do you get into that, trying to pick the exact result?
It depends. I think Dallas will give them a fight, but I could see it going 6 games. I just think those are 2 monster injuries, and we don't know what's going on with Robertson just yet. But right. Miro Heiskanen alone is a top defenseman, and they're going to have to rely heavily on Thomas Harley, who's only been in the league a couple years. So I think Colorado in 6 is a fair play.
How do you look at the Minnesota-Vegas series? Knights win 50 games. There are some people here who believe this Knights team can make another run at a cup. Do you believe so? How do you like this first-round matchup between the Wild and the Golden Knights?
I do. I think Vegas is a juggernaut. I think every year in the first round, guys, specifically, there are sweeps. I think there's a potential of being a sweep in this series in favor of the Golden Knights. Minnesota barely got into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Granted, they did the majority of the heavy lifting without two top players in Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov, who at the halfway point of the season was probably the Hart Trophy winner. So those two guys obviously integral to that team. I just wonder if they can score enough. I think goaltending will be the key in the pathway to success. Is Philip Gustafsson able to stand on his head? It's not going to be Marc-Andre Fleury, the former Golden Knight. I just think there's one team that's definitively better than the other, and that's Vegas. And I expect them to walk in this series. If it's not 4 games, a gentleman's sweep at the very most.
What were the prices there you could get on a sweep or a 5-game win for the Golden Knights? Do we have that graphic? Throw it up one more time. Yeah,
there it is on your screen right there.
8-1 if you
value.
like to sweep. Yeah. 8-1 if you like to sweep, and 5 games 4-1.
Yeah, it's good value. I think Vegas, not only for this series, I like them to win the Stanley Cup. They're definitely on a short list. I think they got the depth. I think they're relatively healthy. Jack Eichel's had an unbelievable year. I love their blue line, and we've seen it before from Aiden Hill. And I think the pathway is important too. I think it's certainly there when you look at the Pacific Division. Specifically, they're going to play the winner of, if they move on, they would play the winner of Los Angeles and the Edmonton Oilers, and there's certainly questions surrounding both those squads right now.
Well, that's a segue to what I was going to ask you next. We see the Oilers and the Kings in this round, every year? What's this, 3 or 4 years in a row? How do you see
Fourth
this
in a row.
Okay.
Yeah, fourth in a row, and the Oilers have grabbed the first 3. There's more intrigue to this one. Having said that, as you can see, people are not buying into the Los Angeles Kings, which the betting market obviously different from reality. And I could tell you the hockey world, there's a lot of people in the Los Angeles Kings. Edmonton has just not been good down the stretch. They've been really, really banged up. A lot of turmoil in the crease. I mean, Stuart Skinner has had a very disappointing second half to the season. So there's much more question marks. And this time around, Los Angeles has home ice advantage. So I get why people are on the Kings. But I still have to side with the Oilers, predominantly 2 guys, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, maybe the 2 best players on the planet right now. The important thing to stress about those 2 guys, when it comes to the playoffs, they play seemingly their best hockey, and they rise to the occasion. Having said that, both guys have been banged up the last month, have missed significant time, so maybe that plays a factor and toll in this series. And I think the other thing I'll be looking at is special teams, the power plays, and also home ice advantage. We just talked about it. The LA Kings had the best home record in the NHL this season, 31-5-4. So if the Oilers can find a way to grab one of the first 2, I think they're going to be in a good spot to win this series. But clearly the market's not overreacting to Edmonton's banged-up nature down the stretch here.
Nick Alberga with us again at the Golden Muzzy up on X. All right, let's go to Carolina and New Jersey. Pretty big price tag, -245. And Nick, it seems like every year Carolina, pretty solid analytical darling, right? A lot of expectations for them. Yeah. They consistently fall short. So what do we do with them here? And in big picture, are they deserving of the respect that they usually get this time around?
It's funny. I would see a pathway. I can see a pathway where Carolina goes all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, everybody is not really talking about them. And maybe it's because of the turmoil surrounding the trade I just talked about with Martin Necas, Mikko Rantanen, and the way they handled that situation. But it just seems like every time you sort of forget about that team, that's when they pounce. The Washington Capitals are the perfect example. When they won the Cup, not many people were actually on that team. And that's why I think long-term there's value on Carolina. Having said that, I'd be ignorant if I didn't tell you to maybe take a flyer on the New Jersey Devils in this series. I love the value when you look at the pricing for that series. And a big reason why it's so slanted is because Jack Hughes, the best player who would have played in the series, is not playing for the Devils. He is done for the season. But I don't think, I would change the price that much without Hughes in the series. There's some other guns on that Jersey team. I mean, they got a good, formidable crease right now with Jacob Markstrom as their number 1, Jake Allen behind him. Dougie Hamilton's back in the mix on the blue line, which is massive. They got Timo Meier. They got Nico Hischier. There's some really good players on that roster. And I think ultimately it'll come down to offense. It'll come down to goaltending. So I actually like the value on the Devils in that series at that price, at least.
All right. So I'm going to list off some successes here. Winnipeg Jets won the Central Division, the President's Trophy, franchise record for points, wins, road wins, and comeback victories. I assume they're flaming out in the first round.
You're not wrong. Like, again, we just talked about value, guys. Like, I think from a betting perspective, you see that price for the Winnipeg Jets, and you're like, why the hell would I bet on them, right? I think if you want to take a shot, the St. Louis Blues, I mean, there's a lot of parallels to be drawn from 2019 when they go on to win the Stanley Cup after they were last place in the NHL in like mid-January. It's pretty nuts, but I think from the Winnipeg perspective, they've been sailing, guys, for like a month and a half. They won the President's Trophy. That seems to be a curse in this day and age. So I think the Blues are live. I really, really do. I think the Blues are live in this series. And again, on the other side, I could easily make a case for Winnipeg to go really, really far. I think it's going to be a closer series at the very least than people think. But again, the value is in the dog in this series, in my opinion.
Nick, do you have a bet on Montreal, Washington, or Ottawa, Toronto? Those two series.
Yeah. So Canadian squads are ruined today, and obviously a cup team or a team from Canada hasn't won since 1993. But even that Capitals series intrigues me, guys. Like, I'm not coming out and saying, hey, there's going to be upsets left and right, but I wouldn't sleep on a team like the Montreal Canadiens either. The Capitals have been striving for Andrew Ovechkin's like record all season long, and they finally get it. And I call it the great hangover. The last 10 games, they're 4-6, which is very, very pedestrian. You talk about another team sailing down the stretch. They got some injury concerns with Logan Thompson. As you guys know, in Vegas, their number one guy, he's going to be a Vezina finalist. Alexei Protas was awesome in the top 6. So it's valid concern. And I think you even look conversely at last September. I mean, nobody had the Washington Capitals on their radar. And now all of a sudden, they're one of the best teams in the league. So I think that's a bit of doubt, enough doubt in my mind. And you look at Montreal, they're playing with house money. Nobody expected that team to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs to begin with. And they're really, really green, which I think will help. They got a lot of young players. Yvonne Demidov is a guy to watch in that series. Has played 2 games in the NHL so far. Lane Hudson's going to win the Calder Trophy. And it helps when you have young players who have never really been to the dance before. So, I think there's a lot of value in Montreal. Quickly on the Battle of Ontario, I'm going to side with the Maple Leafs, not because I cover that team and I'm a fan of that team. I think they're finally ready to do some damage in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the 5th installment of the Battle of Ontario, taking on the Ottawa Senators. As long as the Leafs don't shoot themselves in the foot, they should win this series, and I have them in 6 games. But it's a unique year, guys, where you can make a serious case for like 8, 9, maybe 10 teams to win the Stanley Cup.
All right, last 60 seconds. Anything worth playing in such a tightly priced series between the Panthers and the Lightning?
Pretty much a pick 'em, and I wonder how the market, shifts as we find out more about Matthew Tkachuk. Like, I hate the fact that this series is starting Tuesday, and Matthew Tkachuk is the best player on the Florida Panthers. He's missed like the last couple months, and it gives him even more time to rest and potentially get ready for game 1 of this series. I think it's going to be really close. In the back of my head, there's always that wonder, that concern about how much hockey is too much hockey for the Florida Panthers. They've been to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. They won last year. So I do view a pathway for Tampa. Having said that, I can't bet against Florida, and that's not knowing what's up with Matthew Tkachuk if he'll even play in this series. I think the Panthers are the better team on paper, and we'll see what happens here in this Battle of Florida.
Nick, awesome stuff as always, man. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
At the Golden Muzzy, follow him up there as well. Nick Alberga, nice enough to give us a couple of minutes today. Come back. We have in-pocket plays. Wrap it up before we send it off to a decent primetime. Will we stick around for another 4 hours?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe.
To determine the winner of any given college basketball game.
Someone gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything. You take it. Take it. Take it.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3 to 1 odds. Nope. 5 to 1. Nope. 10 to 1. You're on.
All right. Last night in the NBA, a split Bulls money line. Didn't even have to sweat it because they were never in it.
You had the Bulls last night?
Yeah, they did have the Bulls. Bet that very early in the week.
Your buddy Rex Byers had the Bulls. I heard through the grapevine. I did not know you were on the Bulls, too.
Yeah, so I bet the Bulls on Monday, and I got a text from Big Rex. Said, I'm on the Bulls, too. Good luck, us.
Good luck didn't help.
No, it did not. but did get Kings and Mavericks over 213. I do know that Chris Spit Mad Macero was on the total here on the over 213. Actually texted me last night, gave me credit. So I told you. So at least I led somebody to water.
How about this? Your 2025 record here on In Pocket is 9-5. I think Paul Howard's got like 400 plays, doesn't he?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
You got 14.
Mm-hmm.
But you've only done a few shows.
I was going to say, yeah. I was like, what's your point? I've only been on the show. I was waiting for the punchline there. I was like, I don't know. I've only been on the show a couple of times.
This month, you're 4-1. I like the record keeping here. This is great.
9-5, up 10 units. I mean, most of that obviously is Zach Edey on
the
on
rebound
Tuesday.
prop.
Yeah, the
Boy,
rebound
that was
prop.
such a good bet. I cannot believe the prop was that low. I thought I predicted he was going to grab 17 rebounds in that game and maybe 20.
Yeah, he got right on 17. Foul trouble, too, is annoying, but that's most of it. All right, the pending Knicks Pistons, over 5.5 total games in that series. Think it's going to be a little bit longer than the market thinks. I did bet this earlier at minus 115, but do think minus 125 is still playable. So that is part of the pending. And today, we will put the money where the mouth is. We talked about Palante earlier, about some of the FIP numbers and others, painting a picture of a guy kind of getting away with it. I think the Mets can tag him for a few, so we'll go over 2.5 earned runs allowed for Andre Palante tonight at plus 110.
All right, try to build on that 2025 record you've got going.
That's right. That you tried to shame me for, but did not make.
Look at this. Look at my.
Come on, what are we doing?
Huh? Is this the first Follow the Money show I've done in 2025?
I mean, it must be because some of those numbers for me, I was on with you guys, January, February? So Luke's tracking it. So, yeah, you have not filled in so far on Follow the Money. It's your first show.
Used to fill in all the time.
Yep.
After the Super Bowl, Mitch and Paul leave for 2 weeks. Then again, we do those 4-hour shows every night.
Yeah.
And have not.
Mitch and Paul split their vacations. Usually they would go to vacation together.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean?
Oh, I thought you meant,
I assume they're best friends.
They both went to Cancun.
No, that's what I meant, yeah.
On the same flight.
Don't they fly together?
Spirit Airlines.
Are you alleging,
Cancun?
is there a Mike and Mike dynamic between Mitch and Paul?
Could be.
They secretly hate each other? I know Paul hates Luke because he doesn't have his phone number saved in his phone.
That's amazing.
Luke, how long have you been their producer? 2 years.
2 years and he doesn't have his phone number saved.
No.
Must not like him. Does he follow him on Twitter at least? I'm going to bet no. The last time I looked at Paul Howard's Twitter account, he follows like 20 people.
Do you think he follows me?
I'll say yes.
No, he does not.
He doesn't?
No, he does not.
Okay. He must not like you.
Probably not.
Doesn't respect you.
I often stay awake at night staring at the ceiling and wondering why.
I've only got 2 NBA plays. I don't have a base. Someone just texted me, do you have a baseball play tonight? Not really. I kind of like the Rangers in the over, but I'm not going to call that an official play. That Rangers price too high tonight against your Angels. Kamar Rocker on the hill. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go with the 2 NBA plays I put up at vsin.com 2 nights ago. Let's go with Rockets plus 170 in the series.
Like it.
I thought that series price is too high on Golden State. And Nuggets to win in 7 at plus 390. That was at the Westgate Superbook. I think Clippers Nuggets is going 7.
I think you're wrong. Hopefully you are, though. Folks, if you're coming out to Las Vegas and you want to stay at any of the 3 wonderful properties from Derek Stevens, Circa, the D, Golden Gate, all you got to do is use the promo code VSIN15 at CircaLasVegas.com. Book now and save 15% off. Go to CircaLasVegas.com. Use the promo code VSIN15. You know, you used to have...
I got a report here, sorry.
What do you got?
I don't know if this is confirmed or not. Paul Howard is apparently barbecuing on the roof at the Golden Gate.
Wait, like he is doing the barbecuing?
That's where he's doing like a staycation there this week. Instead of leaving town.
Okay.
He's having his own barbecue up on the roof. I think that's more of a rumor than it is a report.
Okay, I was like, did he bring his own
One
grill?
of our mutual friends just texted that.
Is it one of those tiny little grills that is like very low off the floor, you know?
I don't really picture Paul barbecuing.
I feel like he's got like a good sense of the grill master, if you will. I could picture Paul in an apron that says "Kiss the Cook."
Couldn't.
While he's barbecuing stuff.
I think he does less cooking than I do, or we might be tied for last.
You know, you used to. I was going to bring this up because we were talking about Paul Howard's Twitter account and how he does not follow me. You used to have dreams of constructing a Twitter power ranking. You were talking about this all the time.
I never did that. That was back in the days when we were doing shows at the South Point in the summer.
Yeah.
And
part of it was going to be like tweets sent versus followers,
right.
time on.
Yeah, I never worked on the formula. I don't think I ever fine-tuned the formula for that, so I did not come out.
I mean, your
there are
total.
a lot of people who will follow everyone on Twitter just so they can get follows back.
Yeah, of course.
So that would detract from your power rating.
I mean, I think your two important like ratios
the more
are
you
following
tweet,
to followers, right? Also, amount of tweets versus followers is very good too.
Wes Reynolds told me at one point years ago, the more you tweet, the more followers you pick up. Just it's kind of one of those magnetic deals.
Okay. I have to get that going.
Wes used to tweet all the time.
Used to?
I don't think he tweets that much anymore.
Okay. Dave Ross probably has a very strong Twitter power rating as well.
You don't tweet all that much. I don't tweet that much.
I'm a company man.
Steve Fezzik tweets a lot.
Yes, he does.
Think for a pro sports bettor.
By the way,
that would be negative EV to sit around and tweet all day and night, but Steve tweets all the time.
Lower third, yeah. Huh? Follow us on X, Matt Youmans 24/7 at me JVT at VSiN Live. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce it, so I'll just say we might see more of Steve Fezzik up on the website at VSiN.com soon.
All right.
Yeah. In a competition of sorts.
Well, let's see. Would it be a Stanley Cup Playoffs competition?
You got it.
Maybe an NBA playoffs competition.
Who knows? Who knows? Who's to say? Who's to say when it's actually going to be? Yeah.
Kentucky Derby competition?
Who's to say at this point right now?
I'm going to go NBA. I bet there's going to be an NBA handicapping contest.
Could be.
Is that true?
There are rumors abound, and maybe that could be the case, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything or not, so read between the lines, if you will. Maybe it's a baseball handicapping competition. That would actually be fun over the course of an entire summer to track.
Baseball handicapping?
I mean, it sounds fun, I guess, in theory.
Yeah, I think a lot of the handicappers would fall by the wayside the deeper it got into the season. Right?
You'd probably start
it's very tough to do a baseball handicapping contest. I've been asked about that before. You can do it. There's ways you can pull it off, but I can tell you there's no way in hell I want to run it.
I mean, the daily grind of baseball?
It's a 6-month season.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a true handicapping contest, you got to do the entire season, right? That's going to stretch into football season, and then nobody's going to care.
I mean, you're going to have to care, especially if you're in competition for the winner, if you're competing for it. By the way, speaking of contests, the NBA win total contest, I'm not going to win anything in the NBA win total contest here in Las Vegas. No, I did perform admirably, but I'm not going to place unless there's an email.
Right?
No, I had them under, actually. I had them under. Finished 19-11 on the 30 win totals there. So, did okay, but that is not enough to win in the competition like that, especially in such a small group. I think in that
competition, I believe you're going to have to go at least 23-7 to have a shot.
Somewhere in that range. Yeah. You're going to have to go really hard and have to get it done, and that was not the case. So, actual win totals went well, outside of the one I recommended to Paul Bovey. That was the lone loser of all the win totals I bet before the season began. But the actual win total contest, not going to win anything. But very much looking forward to that. Really like those. We got to figure something out with the long term there for baseball. All right. So with that, we move on. NBA, we talked about the news of the day. Damian Lillard, we're still waiting for some clarification as to what his status is going to be. We know that he's taken off the blood thinning medication, and we're going to keep an eye on what it's going to be. I wanted to read this quote. Bucks general manager John Horst in a statement, quote, "We're thrilled for Dame. Priority has been his health. We're grateful for a medical team. Every step of his recovery has been in the direction of world-class medical professionals, and as the doctor said, he's never seen anything like it."
Okay.
I mean, that is kind of crazy. Usually the recovery procedure is 3 to 6 months.
It's a miracle. Well, first of all, he's not back on the floor yet.
Or the Bucks are lying. I still think they're lying, man.
It could be. Might not see him play at all.
I think that they're hoping that he comes back for like game 6 or 7. I think we're going to play this game for the rest of this series, and that in theory, of course he could.
Are you
probably
tempted to bet the Pacers in the series?
I no, because again, going back to this, it's a weird thing to say this because what I'm going to follow it up with flies in the face of it. It's not that I think Milwaukee is better with Dame, but I do think that the more defensive-oriented backcourt and the way they would play without him is better suited for them in a series like this.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I think big picture, you want him back, but I think maybe in a series like this where there's so much strength in your opponent's backcourt, you want to go a little bit more defensive-oriented at the point of attack.
He can help. I don't think he's going to make a big difference in this series. We got a great show lined up for Friday.
Yes, we do. Looking forward to it. We got an even better show coming up next. VSiN Prime Time for the next 4 hours. Youmans and I will be here with you until 11 p.m. Eastern. Now, Scott Seidenberg, Will Hill will join you for the next 4 hours before Joe Serralo takes over at 11 p.m. on Cash and Out. See you tomorrow.